Good evening. MSNBC special coverage continues right now. I'm Ari Melber, 1 a.m. out east, 10 p.m. out west. Many people up late right now, given the three big stories rocking the nation. Another intense night at the RNC. A Category 4 hurricane about to make landfall as soon as this hour. And new fallout over the Wisconsin police shooting and those overnight killings at protests in that state, as well as other protests around the country. Now, the RNC dialing up with Mike Pence speaking tonight at a federal government site, Fort McHenry, where he tried to puncture the Democratic argument last week that Joe Biden is a consensus figure with Republican support. And we heard, and you probably saw, the discussion of all the Republicans flanking Joe Biden over the course of those days. Well, Mike Pence felt the need to rebut that, and he argued it was all just the trickery of battle. He argues that once you let Joe Biden into those White House gates, a lefty AOC agenda will leap from his Trojan horse.
Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, also spoke, along with the White House press secretary, controversial because their salary paid by taxpayers. Also, Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway taking her star turn here at the very time that she's about to leave the White House. We are joined by Aisha Mills, Democratic strategist, a former fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School, and Jason Johnson, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University and MSNBC contributor. Jason, I'll mention, I had thought I was going to throw to a soundbite of Kellyanne Conway, but consider it an early Christmas present for you that we didn't actually have that clip. And I know you can always do without Kellyanne. But when you listen to Mike Pence, yes. He did key into something that was a legitimate debate among people who aren't at the RNC and aren't voting for Trump, which was this whole Republican convo at the DNC. What did you think of both the argument he made, but also that he felt the need to make it?
Well, Ari, the argument is a reflection of the fact that they're losing. Right? They're worried about the fact that you have Republicans. There's a new ad, I think it's a Lincoln Project, that you have Republicans in droves who are saying this current administration is dangerous. They're not doing their job. We don't want to vote for them anymore. And so Mike Pence is there trying to put his fingers in the dam and make sure that they're not hemorrhaging Republicans the way that they have been the whole time. So I didn't find his argument to be particularly convincing. But beyond that, I didn't think his whole speech was convincing. I mean, look, I know that Mike Pence used to be a radio host, so the fact that they started with that, it's like, okay, maybe this can be compelling. I'll put myself in the mindset like it's drive time in Indianapolis. He would have put me to sleep on the road. I would have had a car accident. He was boring. He was uninteresting. He did not rally the troops, and he did not compel anyone who wasn't already drinking the Donald Trump Kool-Aid to join this coalition. But I think that's part of an overall theme that we've seen tonight, which is people delivering messages to an audience that doesn't exist. I don't know how you can claim that you are the law and order president when a white nationalist just shot protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, claiming Blue Lives Matter, and you're up there talking about protecting the thin blue line. I don't see how that is anything other than a dog whistle to white nationalists. But again, if that's who Mike Pence wanted to talk to, maybe that was his most effective argument.
Well, and that's something we obviously are also covering. I mentioned that in the introduction here. These protests in Wisconsin over the police shooting of what was clearly at the time an unarmed individual, Jacob Blake. This topic came up one time tonight, and here is the latest on that story before I bring in our panelists again. The police arrested that 17-year-old for homicide, alleging that he did directly kill those two people overnight, injuring another during what were largely peaceful protests. Tonight, NBA players saying enough is enough before their playoffs were set to begin. The Milwaukee Bucks boycotting the game, the NBA delaying other playoff games, with questions about what happens to the rest of the season. Now, here is what Mike Pence said about any of this.
Last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down.
Aisha?
So my grandmother and so many other wise black women have taught us that when people show you who they are and tell you who they are, believe them. I watched Mike Pence tonight, and there are some things that he didn't say and some things that he said that remind us who the heck this party is. They talk so much about freedom. They talk so much about protecting the people who ultimately are the vigilantes. He has said nothing at all about justice, about civil rights, about safeguarding innocent Americans who are being gunned down by police. He clearly is reflecting the party that does not care about the average person who is harmed by the state. Other things that Mike Pence said tonight, which I just found, I don't even know why I'm shocked continually by this administration. He reminded us that he passed a bill when he was in Indiana that essentially allowed people to bypass the FDA and to try experimental drugs because, you know, he wants to feed the corporations that want to make money off of doling out drugs. And he bragged tonight about passing a law that said you don't have to even deal with the FDA guidelines. That's exactly where we are with regards to their response to COVID. This administration has constantly pushed hack after hack after hack that clearly hasn't really solved the problem or aided anyone with regards to actual health care to profiteer essentially and help their cronies essentially profiteer off of the government and to sell drugs. He also has gone on and on about talking about, you know, liberalism in a way that he doesn't exactly define conservatism. I appreciate Michael Steele on this network constantly reminding us that there was a time when Republicans stood for something. The entirety of this convention is so disjointed that they don't have any real narrative. So Mike Pence's wife got on tonight and started talking about the 19th Amendment, essentially trying to position herself as a feminist, talking about all these women now that have the right to vote. When literally last night you had somebody who was speaking who doesn't believe that women in their household should be able to have a vote and that the man in the household should determine how everybody should vote. The fact that no one is aligned on message about what this party stands for, no one cares about justice, they don't care about civil rights, and that they are very much leaning into the idea that they believe that corporations should just profiteer off of all of our backs and our health and, you know, be damned our wellness, is the Republican Party showing us who they are, and we need to believe them.
I want to play a little bit here with that in mind of the South Dakota governor with some of this rhetoric Trump has used about the cities that he tries to argue are mostly run by Democrats.
Democrat-run cities across this country are being overrun by violent mobs. The violence is rampant. There's looting, chaos, destruction, and murder. People that can afford to flee have fled. But the people that can't, good, hardworking Americans, are left to fend for themselves.
Aisha, this argument that people need to flee to safety is not supported by the crime statistics. Indeed, as we were just covering in Wisconsin and so many places, the people more fearful are the ones in documented positions of being attacked by the state.
Surely, surely. And, you know, if anybody in this convention cared about facts, they would know that, right? So here we have a situation where time after time and time after time again, you see police brutality. I would love for anyone out there watching to please tweet me all of the cases of the innocent white men or women who have been grabbed by their shirts as they're walking away and gunned down in broad daylight in front of their children in the back as they're walking away. Like, please show me how this is happening proportionately across the board. It's not. Nothing has shown that crime is up against police. For example, what we're seeing in terms of crime being up are vigilantes out there so-called defending the police. And so this rhetoric that keeps getting perpetuated by these people that in some ways suggest that, let's be clear who we're talking about, white folk should be fearful and flee and run away, is just fear-mongering. It is what they do, and, you know, I'm hoping it doesn't work this time.
Well, Aisha, all important points. I appreciate you kicking off our coverage. On a slightly lighter note, I will note that we're getting James Carville vibes in the fashion tonight.
You feeling my hoodie? Yeah. You know, look, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And just so folks know, I'm rocking my Inkwell because I just came back from Martha's Vineyard and hung out at the beach there, the very famous beach that has historically been patronized by Black people in this country. It's called the Inkwell, which is our beloved name for it. So, yeah, I'm chilling tonight, Ari, and I'm trying my best to relax given all that's going on in the state of America.
Well, we believe, you know, this is late night MSNBC, but over on the beat where we also host both of you, we believe it is possible to do both and take the serious stuff quite seriously while never taking ourselves too seriously. And you taught us and everyone a little something about what you're repping there, and I hope you and James Carville someday can be in the same shot, because he's been defining TV outfits down to business casual and below, and we love him for it. So Aisha, thank you. Jason hangs out. Let me tell everyone what we're about to do. Jason's going to come back, but we turn right now for another